Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local.
So let's move on to the remaining sort of two items, which are Google related. So this week, Google held its developer conference, which concluded yesterday, I believe. I only went to the portion of the first day, and there was just a ton of stuff that they announced. You know, we can't capture all of that here, but what I was really struck by, I wrote about three things in the newsletter on Wednesday. I wrote about artificial intelligence and their deeper and deeper language understanding and how that's kind of behind a lot of their products. I also wrote about their integration, their deeper integration of augmented reality live view into local search. They sort of previewed that a couple of years ago, and now they're introducing it. They're going to do it indoors and in transit stations, and they're also going to make it possible to scan the street and get information on businesses around the street. Sort of a realization of what the Layer browser more than a decade ago wanted to do. And then the third item was the shopping graph. Maybe, Mike, you want to jump in on the shopping graph.
The shopping graph is interesting. It's mostly, I think, a marketing repackaging of what they've been doing. Clearly, one big three trends at Google is things around images, in local images, transactions, and granularity, and more detail about entities. Right. And they've been trying to collect this particularly in the products. They bought Pointy. They opened up the Merchant Center, all these things. They opened up Post to products, all these things to get products. And so this is sort of a repackaging of that. The fact that, and they've been wanting to do this since the days of Frugal in 2008, but it wasn't possible. Earlier. Yeah. Wasn't possible then because there wasn't a Shopify then, and merchants weren't that well organized. But now Google has achieved real-time, almost near real-time inventory information, which is amazing with 24 billion items, or however many they said they had. It's pretty amazing.
Well, and I think that's one of their key differentiators versus Amazon, or their attempts to differentiate from Amazon, is this online, offline, real-time inventory thing. And it'll be interesting to see, if they can penetrate the small business market more with Pointy than they have already.
Right. The one thing I think I saw in this was a simplified Shopify interface, and David has mentioned in the past that the interface has been quite.
That's right. There's a number of requirements to get into Google Merchant Center, such as a privacy policy and shipping information, and there's a whole series of things that Merchant Center requires. And it seems to me that Shopify could be doing a better job of automating the sort of creation and submission of those policies to Google Merchant Center. Even myself, as a relatively sophisticated marketer, trying to help a small business who is a new Shopify merchant get set up in Google Merchant Center, was pretty overwhelming. It took three efforts, essentially, three back and forths before the policies got approved. And this is just for a guy, who was selling essentially sort of custom run printed artwork through his Shopify store, not a complicated product by any means. So I think that I'm hopeful that this initiative has real momentum from both Shopify and Google to streamline that process. It should be as easy as it is to get on GMB, in my opinion, to get into Google Merchant Center. And right now, at least, it doesn't seem to me to be that way.
Ultimately, it'll probably become that way. I mean, I would imagine. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say that this Google inserting themselves in the sales process at this point, where people are looking to discover inventory, where it is, where they can buy it, is the perfect Google play. It doesn't require any inventory, doesn't require any delivery service, doesn't require any customer service. They're able to insert themselves in the midst of millions of transactions successfully. So I think in that sense, it's a brilliant play. And the fact that it got elevated to the name of the shopping graph indicates that they think they've got it nailed.
Well, I mean, I think they still lack. I mean, I think there's still some UI issues for Google and user experience issues but
those are from their point of view. That's just UI and UX never been their strong point.
Yeah.
That's just sort of, they'll figure it out someday. But they think they have the fundamentals figured out.
Yeah, but I do think that the noise, there's still too much noise. I mean, if you go into Google Shopping, you've got a sort of a structured presentation, but there's still sort of too much noise in Google search to make it a true Amazon competitor in a certain sense, because Amazon is so intuitive, structured. It's all there. People are familiar with it. But let's just talk for a second about Shopify, right? And how Shopify is really now in an incredible position as the sort of distribution vehicle for all of these different platforms for small business customers. I mean, they have quietly sort of built this empire of distribution, and they're really at the center of that.
Google said 1.7 million businesses were using Shopify at the moment,
which is up 70% year
eligible.
over year, according to Shopify's annual report, which we covered last week. So, Greg, I agree with you that Shopify is clearly the lead distributor for SMBs. I still think that both Square and Squarespace are in really good positions. Square is a result of its sort of historical success with an offline point of sale, and now pairing that with a pretty good website product through their Weebly acquisition. And Squarespace, I think, for what would I say, more experiential local brands, I think is in a really good spot. And then also they obviously just acquired Talk, and they're apparently going to a direct listing to go public here shortly. So I think that I think all three companies have executed fairly well in their own sort of lanes with the businesses that they've done the best with. And I think all three of them are, Google is likely to partner with the other two as well, given that they all need to team up against Amazon. So.
Yeah. So just another final comment about IO. We could talk at length about it, but just the thing that mesmerized and kind of impressed me, and I'm not a PhD in natural language processing or anything, is just the sophistication now of Google's algorithms. Its language understanding is just getting so sophisticated, and their capabilities and this was the intention of the presentation, but seemed to me to just so far outstrip all of their competitors. It's just really kind of staggering to me, the kinds of things that they're doing.
In the area of image recognition, where you can upload a screenshot and they'll grab a logo off 2% of the screenshot and tell you what model it is or what brand it is, shows you how they're tying that together with the graph too, the shopping graph and all the other graphs. Like, in other words, you upload a screenshot, somebody's standing there with a pair of Nikes, they know which model it is, they tell you which local stores it's at. It's quite impressive. I agree.
It really is.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co this week.